Hey, what's up, everybody? Pastor Kev here, along with my co host, Sister Angela, who has been co hosting this panel discussion with me for the last few weeks on The Chosen. And here we are, season four finale. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I know. We were talking before we came on live, and I was like, yeah, you did the same thing I did. As soon as it ended, it was like, all right, we're season five. Like, I need season five to hurry up and get here because that's how great the show was.
Yes.
And let me see here. I thought I was just trying to make sure we're live here in case I see anybody that wants to pop on with us. Turn my sound down here. All right, so where we ended last week, you were just about ready or just about to finish
Mm-hmm.
season four, episode
Four.
4.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just at the point where
Mm-hmm.
God, and let me tell you something. I absolutely love Gaius.
I do too.
I love Gaius. And for those of you that haven't watched, or he is the Roman soldier who went to Jesus saying that, all you have to do is speak the word. I'm a man under authority. If I tell one to go, he goes. If I tell one to come, all you have to do is speak the word. But his transition to get to that point was again another touching moment.
It was.
So, when he goes there and he finally like he's even excited to go to see Jesus because that's how it was, almost like the woman with the issue of blood. That's how
Mm-hmm.
convinced he was. Like, I know he can heal my son. I know
Mm-hmm.
it. And he was excited to go to see Jesus. Then when he walks in the room, he's like, Lord. And
He immediately dropped to the floor.
he got on his knees, and the disciples were like, "He just call him Lord?" Like, because back then the Roman soldiers. All right, I see Brian on. I'm going to try to bring him on.
Okay.
Um, the Roman soldiers did not view the Jewish people as people. It's almost like in slavery days with blacks and whites during that time, how blacks were viewed only as property. They weren't viewed as being human. That's
Exactly.
how the Romans treated the Jews. So to see him willing to interact with Simon digging the well, his interaction with Matthew when he was, protecting him, and then having this encounter with Jesus. Walk us through, like, what were you feeling when that all took place?
I I saw his transition, like you said. I saw him starting to believe, to understand, and so it was just wonderful to see him just submit.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the easiest term I can use, is submit to the power of the Lord, and to just know that this is who he is, even though you're not supposed to acknowledge this. But luckily enough, he was in a high position. So,
Right.
but it was just really good. And then I have to jump forward.
Go
The
ahead.
same thing with Joanna.
Mm-hmm. But see, Joanne, I think, was already a believer because of her interaction with John the Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, she believed John the Baptist, and so therefore it was easy for her to make the transition from John the Baptist to Jesus, and then help provide for them monetarily,
Mm-hmm.
like
But
giving.
to do
Go
what
ahead.
she did and actually step away from her life, because that's pretty much what she did.
At the
That
end,
that was something else too. So that was a moment as well.
yeah, because like even with Gaius, when he went to Jesus for his son, and he knelt. But then once he said what he said, I love how the actor who's portraying Jesus, like I have to give him kudos because he brings the emotion, um, like the shocked allness of like, do you see this Gentile?
Mm-hmm.
This person who's not supposed to be a believer is 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 believing not only that I can heal his son, but he's not even asking me to come to his house. He's just asking me to speak the words
Exactly.
that he's like, and that's when Jesus was like, I haven't seen this kind of faith in all of Israel. And it was true. And then after Jesus spoke the word, I like how Gaius, he didn't run right home.
No,
He
he didn't. He knew. He didn't have to run home. He knew.
he knew. He's like, man, I'm going shopping. I'm gonna buy some toys for the boys. I'm going to buy dinner. And then he was paying more for some of the stuff than it was worth. He was giving the shopkeepers money, and they were like, like just shocked that he was
Mm-hmm.
friendly. He was giving them more, and then when he walked home, his wife come running out, and he was just like,
He's like,
"Are
I
you?"
know.
He was like, "I know, I know." And then fast forwarding again, um, when they're going on the pilgrimage
Mm-hmm.
to Jerusalem, he wanted to go.
He did. He really did want to go, but he knew he had too many responsibilities.
Many responsibilities.
But he did want to go. You could see it on his face. He wanted to go.
And then he was just like, "Shalom, shalom."
He's like, don't forget to say it twice. She's like,
Yeah,
I will.
don't forget to say it twice now, and but that showed he's like, give Jesus my love and respect. Tell Matthew, I hope he's okay. I hope Simon is okay. Like he really had genuine affection
He
for
did.
all.
He did. He really did. And it showed that he paid attention to who they were enough to not say too much when it came to Matthew. Because she was like, what? What do you want me to say to Matthew? He's like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
make sure he's okay.
He's all right. But even with Matthew, his journey, because remember when he starts out, he doesn't like to be touched.
Right.
Um, you know, standoffish. But remember when they were exchanging gifts,
Mm-hmm.
and John came and gave him the new stylus.
Okay. Yes.
First thing Matthew did was held up his arms for a hug, and I was like, "What?" Like he went from being, the one who was receiving to the one now initiating,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to embrace, because that was not Matthew.
Not at all.
You know, um, wow. Who else can we talk about? Um, all right. Here's what I wanted to say, because what this show really points out is something that I've been in my pastorship from the beginning, teaching the difference between relationship and religion.
Okay.
And you can see how the Sanhedrin, they're so rooted in religion and
Mm-hmm.
tradition that here is the Messiah that you all been waiting for, all been studying about. Here he is right in front of you, but you're so rooted in your religion that you can't see the truth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that scene with Jesus and Shumel, whatever his name is,
Right.
that's a perfect example.
You're talking about when Mary anointed his feet. That one?
Right. First, they were just having dialect and they were kind of debating, and then he was starting to come onto Jesus's side. But then when Mary dumped those perfume oils on him, him and Judas both went off.
We'll talk about Judas in a minute. Ah, but yes, Shemel. And here's the thing: not just him, but the rest of the disciples. Have you noticed that they can quote the majority of the Torah?
Mm-hmm.
They quote all the prophets:
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah, Ezekiel. Daniel. You know the prophet that they've kind of, to me, refused to quote was Isaiah.
Oh yeah, they haven't
And,
quoted
and
any.
Isaiah is the one who prophesied what was going to happen to Jesus. He was bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. By his stripes we're healed. Like he talked about that. And as much as they quoted the prophets, they never quote. And so that's what was baffling to me. How Jesus is telling you, what I'm about to do. Remember, he said when he was talking to his mother, he said, "I've told them 3 times that I'm going to die,"
Yes,
and they
well,
just
and
ain't
he was talking
hearing
to
him.
Lazarus about that too.
Yes, and it's like they're not getting it. I don't they just don't want to hear it, and that's when I was like, well, they're quoting
They
all of
don't
the.
want to believe it. They don't want it to happen, and I think they feel as though if they don't say it, it
It's
won't
not,
happen. It's not going to happen.
and that could very well be because none of them quoted, none of them have come to that realization that, and and they keep asking, what do you mean by you
What do
not
you
going to
mean
be here?
burial? What do you mean?
What do you mean by burial? Like, what do you?
Mhm.
And I love how the humanity of Jesus is portrayed. Um, the frustration,
Yes, yes.
the
He definitely had a lot of frustration when it came to his disciples.
yes, the sons of thunder. Can we sit on one on your left hand, one on your right hand?
He was about to go off on that. he was about to go off.
Like, what you don't even
Do
know
you
what you're.
even know what you're asking me? Right.
And they were almost kind of adamant, like, well, why not? What do you mean? You said we could ask for anything, so we're asking. And he's like, well,
Mhm.
and he was like, y'all just keep going to Jerusalem. I'll catch up. When
Right.
no, 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 y'all just go. In other words, get away from me. Get out my face.
I know,
Because
right? Because but I'm about to lose my religion.
I am just fed up with y'all right now. I am just fed up.
Mhm.
Um, and then Judas.
Ooh, oy vey.
Yeah, and see, and here again, Jesus knowing that this guy's going to betray him,
Mhm.
still extends to him. Like he's not looking at him like, you know what? I already know who you are. I already know what you're gonna do, you little snake. Like he's not.
Now you
Yeah.
know what? I look at the bloopers because at the end of each season they have like this long 20 minutes where they're showing this, the credits. But if you go all the way to the end, they show like bloopers, and so
Uh,
they show the scene with Jesus on the mountain with Judas, and he's telling him, "Listen to everything I say closely." And
right.
Judas is standing next to him. He says, "You just don't know how bad I'm going to betray you, man."
See, I didn't watch the bloopers. See but now I'm glad you said that because it gives me something to go back to. And it's like right at the end of the episode, I hurry up and fast forward to get to the next one. I'm so ready to watch it, but I didn't even know they were doing bloopers, so I'm gonna have to
It's
go
only
back.
at the end of each season. Like
Oh,
if you,
okay.
it's at the end of each season, they have like this like if you look at the timer, it'll say, let's say I'll say an hour and 20 minutes, but you'll notice that it stops at like an hour and 5 minutes, and then they'll have credits for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, and then they'll do 5 minutes of bloopers.
Okay. Yeah. My buddy Mike Spellman is on. He said, "What's up, Kevin? Still haven't watched the series, but love to listen to all the commentary. But sounds like people today still don't want to believe at all." You know what, Mike? You're right. And that's where that I was talking about that difference between that relationship and religion,
Hmm.
because there are a lot of people today who are still rooted in the traditional religious stuff that a lot of churches do, not understanding like, yes, we can come out from that and focus mainly on the relationship. Because, for me, and this is for me speaking, I believe tradition is more work focused. How hard can I shout? How hard can I hoop? How loud can I pray? How, all of these emotional things that it's almost like you're performing. You feel as though you have to perform for God in order to get his attention. And just watching this show and how Jesus is portrayed, like, man, number one, I just want y'all to understand what I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to understand it. And then after you understand it, go and teach it to somebody else. That's
Exactly.
it. Not you don't have to do all these extra stuff, and because all of that stuff is what the Gentiles were. I mean, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were doing.
Casey's. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to show you how much of the law, the Torah I know. I want to show you, if I wear all this, like, and there was a couple episodes where the one guy didn't have on everything he was supposed to have on. He's like, "Where is this and where is that?" And you got on the wrong stuff. Like they were so focused on the wrong thing.
Oh
But
yeah, like how about when the messenger came? He was from a different city or whatever, and he came to tell the Pharisees something, and he was like, "Take that off because you're wearing two different fabrics or something,
right,
and you know that's against our religion."
yes, and that's what I'm saying. Like they were so focused on everything that was outer, they never allowed the words that Jesus was saying to penetrate their heart. And then we get to that final conversation with him and Shmuel, where Shmuel's like, "Man, I came here to give you an opportunity, and you blew it because Mary sat there and took her head covering off to wipe Jesus' feet." And Jesus told him, he said, "Man, listen, there's nothing in Torah that says that a woman has to have her hair covered.
Right. He said that's just tradition. That's what he said.
That's
Tradition.
your tradition." And,
Hmm.
and how many churches today you still see that women are trying to cover their hair or trying to
Or
wear some?
wear skirts all the way down to their ankles or something.
Yes, and he's telling them, like, as much as y'all studied the Torah, y'all missed so much of what it was actually saying. And okay, and Mike said, just like the law, our traditions are designed to point us to Jesus. Yes. Let me see if I know there's a way I can bring the chat up. Bam, there we go. All right. He said too much work. Can you see the
Mhm, I
chat
see
there?
it. Mhm.
Yes. So now we can see the chat as it's being said. And he's right. It's that's what religion does. It causes you to do a whole lot of work unnecessarily. Hand
Mhm.
out X amount of tracks, knock on X amount of doors, pray X amount of times a day. Like, there's no limit to how many times you can pray. We understand that because the Bible says that men ought always to pray. So there's no limit. But once you start telling yourself that, oh, I have to pray this amount of times a day, now it goes from that relationship to now just being religion, and now it's
And
work
right,
based.
and being rhetorical, just doing,
Right.
being mechanical.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Just being so that just when you said being mechanical, that already tells you you're removing emotion from it. You're removing feeling because I'm just going through the motions now.
Mhm.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just going through the motions. So Thomas, Thomas is a little upset. Jesus.
Yes, he's very upset. I mean, I knew he was going to be upset as soon as they started making their way towards Bethany. You could just see it on his face. He's like, I know he's not about to do what I think he's about to do. That's pretty much what it was on his face.
And he said that though. He's like, I, in other words, really, let's break it down. Let's be honest. I know he better not be going there to raise no Lazarus from no dead. I,
Yes, and you know what? I'm surprised it didn't come out of anybody's mouth, but it's like, oh, so you can bring your friend back to life, but what about my friend?
but he basically said he didn't say that to Jesus.
No, he didn't.
Remember when they were outside of Lazarus' house after he rose Lazarus from the dead? Remember he was out there breaking pots and all that stuff. Like why does he get to choose? Like he didn't do it for you. Like he knows Peter's story. that Peter's wife lost their baby. He knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, how come he gets to pick and choose who he heals, who he raises, who and it's like, yo, that's almost what prompted my message last week. Why be mad at God? It
Right.
was based off of some of the stuff that was happening because you don't have a right to be mad. And just like Brian just said, his father chose for him.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that Jesus did was because of the will of the Father.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, that's what he said in the Bible. He says, what I do, I only do what my Father tells me to do. I only
They
say
do.
what my
Mm-hmm.
Father says. So it's not like I just, yes, I'm down here of free will. Yes, I have power to do, but ultimately, everything that I do is
Must
in
be the
line
will of
with the.
God. Mm-hmm.
And how many times have I said that?
Mm-hmm.
When we pray for things, it has to be in line with the
Be the
will of
will
God.
of God.
When
Mm-hmm.
we ask for things, it has to be in line with the will of God. Everything. And,
I am
and
praying right now for something to be for God to tell me that it's in his will. My son and my nephew have an opportunity to move together so they can both get out of my house and my sister's house. And my thing is, and we're going to talk about when we're in Vegas, I want it to be in line with the will of God.
mm, okay.
So that's
And,
what
and
I'm.
and here's the thing: God tells us that we can ask.
Mm-hmm.
He never says we can't ask. He said,
Right.
ask so your joy may be full. And to me, that just simply says, like, if I don't ask, then I'll harbor resentment because I'm not asking because I don't want to hear what the real answer is. And remember, I preached that sermon, God answers every prayer, whether it's
Yes.
yes or
Yes.
no.
No. Or not now.
Or not. So you're going to get the answer, but a lot of times people don't want the answer that they don't want. So I'm not even going to ask. And it's almost like you were saying before um, about the disciples not wanting to quote Isaiah. Well, if I don't say anything, maybe it won't happen. So,
Right. Maybe it won't happen.
so if I don't ask, maybe somehow God will know that's what I want and he'll give it to me anyway. So that way, if I get it, cool. If I don't, then I didn't ask for it anyway. Mike said we can ask, but if not his will, we ask amiss. Absolutely. And there are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who ask amiss because that's what the word says. They want to spend it on their guilty pleasures.
Mm-hmm.
But my man Judas, this um he the actor that they had playing him, I had to give him kudos too because
Yes,
like
he's playing that part well.
even he after Mary washes the feet with of Jesus with the oil, first thing he says is like that and Jesus like what's wrong, Judas? What's the problem? That could have been sold. It was a waste. Like,
It could have fed the poor. He tried to use that line. You mean I could have stole some more?
and here he is pocketing money
Uh-huh.
every once in a while. He's saving up because that's what his friend told him to do. You're in charge of the money. You're not really getting paid. In other words, pay yourself.
Right.
And that's what he's been doing. And Matthew caught him.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, because
And,
Matthew was like, "Is there another purse? Like this one little? Where's the other
right.
purse?" And he got indignant with Matthew.
Yes, he did. He's like, "Do
But
you want to keep the purse?" He's like, "I'm trying to stay away from that."
right, yeah, I'm not trying to do that anymore. But yeah, he's it's going to be interesting to see because they've already laid that foundation because Shmuel met him outside after that whole
Yes.
Mary incident, washing the feet.
So
Shmuel was
he
up there.
he knows he can approach him.
Can I talk to you some other time?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be our way in. And I can already see that Shmuel would take that knowledge, that information about how Judas felt back to the Sanhedrin and let them know, like, hey, we know one of his disciples is disgruntled.
Mm-hmm.
What do he say here?
He
He said,
said, "Pop up bubbles."
to actually say what they don't speak. Well, listen, that would be something. But yeah, so um, Jesus at the end, he's getting the donkey and he's riding in to Jerusalem.
And now I know the significance of the bridle.
Yes,
That was David's.
yes. So it was. So again, for those of you that haven't watched, um, from David's line, there was a bridle for the horse, that the bit that you put in his mouth and the strap that was passed down from father to son, from father to son, all the way down to Jesus' earthly father, Joseph. And he passed it on to Jesus. And he even had that conversation. He's like, I know you'll never have a son. But I'm still going to keep this tradition going.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus had his mother bring it, and then that's what he put on the donkey to ride into Jerusalem. So yes, how the writers and of the show are tying everything together. I like that.
Well, at first, when he first went to his mother and asked her where it was, and she said, "I left it in your room," and she had this solemn look on her face, and I think it's because she and he both knew all along that when I ride in on this donkey, this is going to, because it's written in the scriptures too. Because remember, they did quote that scripture too, that this is the
Hmm.
beginning of the end.
And okay, so the disciples they're understanding that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, because he sent Zebedee, he sent Z,
And
Simon the
Matthew.
and Matthew to go get it, and they're quoting like, "Yeah, we need it because he's riding in, blah 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 blah." But my thing is, why aren't y'all piecing everything together?
Mm-hmm. Because they don't want to. They don't want to.
That's frustrating for me. And if it's frustrating for me watching that account of how it went down, I know it's gotta be frustrating for Jesus.
Now, we do have to go back to what you said about the disciples before, that
Mm.
they're like maybe in their late teens. So it might not even be quite registering.
Well, that's true too, because these guys are being portrayed um, as older than I think they really were.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we're going to talk about the raising of Lazarus now. Brian mentioned him. Um, I even like the conversation that Jesus had with Lazarus after he raised him.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole process of, again, we have to go there. Lazarus is dead, and I'm going to wake him up. That right there is almost what really set Thomas off, because
It was.
that's when Thomas understood, like, yeah, this guy's dead, and you're going to raise him up, but you let my girlfriend die,
Mm-hmm.
or the woman that I wanted to marry.
Right, his
They didn't,
fiance. Right.
yeah, they really didn't do girlfriends back then, but
Right.
let her die on the street right in front of me, and you did nothing. Now, because it's your family, because him and Lazarus are, I think, what, cousins
They
and the
boys. No, they boys.
and here it
Because
is
because Thomas even said, you didn't even do it for your own cousin. Talking about John the
on the
Baptist.
Baptist, right? You didn't stop him from dying.
Right.
You didn't stop Simon's wife from losing her baby. You didn't stop Rama from dying. And now, and I guess looking at it from his perspective, to be fair, it does seem like Jesus is picking and choosing.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we can all have that thought
Mm-hmm.
when we feel as though, why am I not getting blessed?
Right.
When is it going to be my turn? Especially, I'm seeing everybody else around me progressing, moving, uh, doing, I'm seeing everybody else, but when is it going to be my turn?
Exactly.
And I think that's where Thomas was really, that was really further getting him upset,
Yes, it
you
was.
know. And now we get here, And Jesus is like, all right, remove the stone. Oh, we can't because he's been in there 4 days. He's going to stink. Blah blah blah. Was I not clear?
I know, right?
Because when he said move the stone, nobody moved. And he's like, what, was I not clear? Like, move the stone. And they moved the stone, and sure enough, some kind of stench came out. And he's like, Lazarus, come forth. And everybody's like, waiting, like,
The one woman even screamed like she seen
yeah.
a ghost.
Well, I mean, what do you do? What's your reaction then? But here, this guy's in the tomb. It's already sealed with the stone, and now here, this rabbi who we don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard some of the miracles that he's done. We've heard he's healed the blind, healed the sick, cleansed lepers. But now we're on a whole different
Mm-hmm.
ball field. This guy's been dead for 4 days,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking about come forth. Now, I've never seen this before. Well, I mean, technically, they've never seen any of the stuff that Jesus did.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But
And I
this,
guess if I wasn't one of his disciples, yes, I probably have been shocked, shell shocked too.
you just scream too.
Yeah, probably so.
You know, and here he came out, and even with the people that were there, because you did have some religious leaders there. You had a couple of Pharisees or Sanhedrin that were there that watched it. But instead of them saying, wow, this is a miracle, oh no, this is devil worship. Everything that Jesus did, they never wanted to recognize that he was doing this.
Right. They wanted to say sorcery, anything that was not of God.
And because, and here's the thing, he's got all these followers. People are now believing, and what is that going to do to us?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take away from who we are. It's going to take away
Exactly.
our status. It's going to take away our prominence. They were really looking at what they were losing. Who was this? Nothing. And it's funny that more than one people have said this. Nothing good comes out of Nazareth. You talk about Jesus the Nazarene. Nothing good comes out of Nazareth. Like Herod has said it. Some of the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, they've said it. People just on the street have said, like, nobody wants to acknowledge that this guy's legit.
Yeah, it was sad. That part was very sad to see that. Especially when they were talking about him, I guess that was in one of the palaces.
In the
Uh,
temples.
you're right. No, I'm talking about Herod
Oh,
and
oh, Herod, yeah.
Pontius Pilate and all of them. They were talking about him, like, I don't know, just blase blah. And then they were like, well, we should kill Lazarus again. Let's just kill him.
Oh, yes. And it was Pontius' wife who was like, well, wait a minute. If he did raise him from the dead and you kill him, what's to stop him from just raising him from the dead again? And
Again.
Pontius like, didn't think about that one.
Uh-huh.
But that also showed the lengths that they were going, that they were willing to go to discredit Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
how can we prove that he didn't raise Lazarus from the dead? Well, let's just make sure Lazarus is still dead.
I couldn't believe that. That was something else.
But is no different than the rest of them after they crucified Jesus. When they found out the tomb was missing, they were like, hey, we'll say that his disciples came in the middle of the night and stole the body.
Mm-hmm.
See, we haven't even gotten to that part. I'm waiting with what they say, braided breath,
Bated
to
breath, yes.
see how this next season 5, how they're going to display or how they're going to go through the trial, the crucifixion, the whipping. I'm interested and curious to see how they're going to portray all of that.
I'm also interested to see if it's going to end with Jesus being resurrected and then, acknowledging this to his disciples, or if they're going to go on and follow some of the disciples.
Well, okay, so we already know just from how they set it up that they have to show the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
They have to show his interaction with Thomas because right
Mm-hmm.
now, even though Jesus is on the donkey, and this is how the show ended, he's on
Mm-hmm.
the donkey, he's riding into Jerusalem, and the disciples are following behind him. And Thomas, they're almost kind of like
Dragging
not
him.
dragging, but like he's going, but you can almost see like my heart ain't in it.
Yes. Because that
So
was another thing that Judas said. Well, maybe he's going to leave.
yeah,
He said maybe Thomas is going to leave us.
and Judas don't sometimes he doesn't know what to say.
You notice he got snake eyes.
That's why I call him the snake.
Yeah, he's got snake eyes. They made sure they cast somebody that looked devious and
See,
devilish.
for me, it's not so much snake. His facial features, and I guess because of who he is, he looks more like a rat to me. And I don't, and I guess I'm guessing it's just because of the person he's playing.
Right.
He's acting like a rat. He looks like a rat. He's deceptive. He's sneaky, you know. But yeah, Thomas is he's on his way. Everybody in Jerusalem, they're grabbing the palm fronds because they're
Yes.
ready to lay them down. And then if you fast forward, because we know scripture, these same people who are now preparing, because remember the guy that they got the donkey from went and told him, Jesus is
Everybody.
coming, Jesus is
Yep.
coming. And that's when Joanna was like, hey, she started buying the palm fronds. Here, everybody get some palm fronds. And all of these same people who are now excited that he's coming will be the same people yelling, crucify him.
Yep.
These are going to be the same people. And, watching this show, knowing, even though you know what's going to happen, it's still good to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's still good to see it play out.
It is. It really is.
So I'm excited for season 5. I know we probably still have probably well they said next year, which is not bad when you think about it because
Next
we're
year's
at,
not that far away.
we're almost at the end of this year. So they haven't set forth any kind of release date, but I know once it happens, I'm hoping that you'll come back on and co-host with me to talk
I will.
about Chosen. Any closing thoughts? Any other parts that may have stood out that we might have missed?
No, I think that sums it up. I mean, everything was just, I mean, I knew where it was going after a while, and I kind of figured they were going to end it at that point right there before he goes into Jerusalem, because he even made a statement to his disciples: no matter what happens over this next week, remember this, remember that, So we're going into,
The
we're at
final.
Palm Sunday, and we're going into, Resurrection Sunday, resurrection. So
Well,
it's going to be next season is going to be very intense.
and if they stick to their 8 episode season, then we have to look at episode 1, and we can let's kind of throw it out there. Episode 1, he comes in, he's received, everybody's rejoicing, blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah, and then at some point he's going to get arrested. What did Mike say? Catch up.
He's going to catch up in the off season.
All season. We'll be ready next one. Be blessed. All right, Mike. Listen, hey brother, thanks for tuning in. Yes, go back watch seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that when season 5 comes out, man, we'll bring you on as well, and you can be part of the conversation. But yeah, I can see episode 1 how he's coming in and they're rejoicing that he's here, and then probably episode 2, him being arrested,
I think we should take each episode and talk about it because it's going to be intense.
We can do that
Right.
because
I don't think we should do, like 4. I think we should do an episode at a
episode of the
time
week.
because it's going to be
Absolutely.
intense.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's exactly what we'll do. And see, and it's easier to do that because that way it'll all be fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
then that way we'll be able to focus on exactly what happened in that.
Exactly.
Okay. Absolutely. That's what we'll do. All right, so I'm Pastor Kev. This has been Sister Angela, one of our faithful members, and I thank you, thank you for wanting and being willing to come on and have this discussion with me.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for your insight. For the rest of the AFCC family, remember this week I will be ministering in North Carolina, so we won't be doing our live broadcast here Sunday morning. I'll be ministering in North Carolina. So just stay tuned for that. And we're looking forward to season 5 of The Chosen.
Yes, we
All
are.
right. All right. You guys be blessed, sis. Hey, I'll talk to you soon. You guys
All
have a
right
good
then.
night.
Good
All
night.
right.